Rusty, an old, blind golden retriever, had spent most of his life at the shelter, unseen and forgotten. His once shiny coat had dulled over time, and his playful, spirited nature had long since faded. The shelter, overcrowded with animals in need of homes, had become a place of last refuge for Rusty. His days were marked by silence, broken only by the occasional barking of other dogs and the soft patter of rain against the shelter's windows. One cold, rainy evening, when the staff were preparing to shut down for the night, a familiar figure appeared at the door. The shelter's manager, Carla, always had a soft spot for the old dog, and it pained her to watch him grow more frail with each passing day. As she approached his kennel, she noticed something unusual. A small, weathered collar lay beside him, and attached was a torn piece of paper that read, "Return to the Greenfield Manor. If found, please return him home. He saved me once." Carla, both puzzled and intrigued, gently picked up the collar, the message catching her breath. He saved someone? What does this mean? She whispered to herself. Determined to uncover the truth behind Rusty's past, Carla postponed his scheduled euthanasia and began her search. The more she researched Greenfield Manor, the more she discovered a place long forgotten, now abandoned and nearly consumed by time. Once a home for elderly residents, Greenfield Manor was now on the verge of being shut down. It had fallen into disrepair, much like Rusty had. But there was something about the connection between the dog and this place that tugged at Carla's heart. The next morning, Carla made up her mind. "Rusty, we're going to find out where you belong," she promised him, her heart heavy with the weight of his years of neglect. With Rusty in the car, Carla drove to the outskirts of town, where the remnants of Greenfield Manor stood. The journey felt endless, and with every mile, Rusty seemed to grow more restless, as though something inside him recognized the road. When they arrived at Greenfield Manor, Carla was struck by the eerie stillness that surrounded the building. The place, which had once been filled with life and laughter, now stood silent and decaying. Overgrown ivy crawled up its walls, and broken windows stared out like hollow eyes. As Carla helped Rusty out of the car, his tail gave a weak wag, and his nose twitched as he took in the air. "It's okay, boy," she whispered, even though she wasn't sure it was. The door creaked open, revealing an older woman, dressed in a worn nurse's uniform. Her name was Edith, and her eyes softened when she saw Rusty. "I thought I'd never see him again," she murmured, taking a step forward. Edith revealed that Rusty had once been a service dog for one of the elderly residents, a man named Mr. Henderson, who had been a veteran and had spent his final years in Greenfield Manor. The bond between them was something extraordinary. Rusty had saved Mr. Henderson's life during a winter storm years ago, leading rescuers to him when he had collapsed in the snow. But when Mr. Henderson had passed away, the dog had disappeared, wandering off into the world, never to be seen again, until now. Carla listened to Edith's tale, her heart breaking for the loss and for Rusty, who had spent so many years alone. But there was more to this story than just a loyal dog. As Edith shared, it became clear that Greenfield Manor's decline wasn't just due to neglect, there were forces at work. The building's administrator, a man named Mr. Prescott, had been siphoning funds meant for the care of the residents, using them to line his own pockets and make deals with luxury developers who wanted to turn the manor into upscale apartments. The staff, stretched thin and overwhelmed, were powerless against him. As Carla pieced together the story, she knew that saving Rusty was just the first step. She couldn't leave the residents of Greenfield Manor to suffer, and she couldn't let Prescott destroy a place that held so many memories. She made it her mission to not only find Rusty's rightful place but to give the manor, and its residents, a second chance. With Rusty by her side, Carla began reaching out to old friends, former staff members, and even local media. She uncovered more evidence of Prescott's corruption, and as the truth spread, people started to listen. Volunteers came, donations were made, and even some of the families of the former residents of Greenfield Manor returned to visit, inspired by the story of Rusty's loyalty and the community that had been left behind. The battle wasn't easy. Prescott fought tooth and nail, using every trick in the book to discredit Carla and her team. But they persisted, drawing strength from the dog who had saved a life long ago and was now saving a community. In the end, it was a heartwarming piece in the local newspaper, about Rusty's journey in the revival of Greenfield Manor, that brought the final change. The story of a blind, loyal dog who had been forgotten, only to be rediscovered and loved again, resonated with the town. The board of directors of Greenfield Manor voted to restore the building, and the developers' plans were halted. Rusty, once abandoned and forgotten, became the symbol of the manor's rebirth. The residents, young and old, found new purpose, and Edith's dedication to her patients grew stronger than ever. Carla, having found her own sense of purpose, knew that the fight had been worth it. As the sun set over the now thriving Greenfield Manor, Carla sat in the garden, Rusty resting beside her, his head on her lap. The once quiet manor was now filled with laughter and warmth, and Carla finally allowed herself to breathe, knowing that, together, they had built something that would endure far beyond the walls of the old house. Rusty and Carla found solace in the newfound peace of Greenfield Manor, but their journey was far from over. One evening, as Carla watched the residents interact with Rusty, she noticed a young boy sitting alone on a bench in the garden. His face was etched with sadness, and his hands fidgeted nervously. Curious, Carla approached him. "Hi there," she said gently. "I don't think we've met yet. I'm Carla, and this is Rusty." The boy's eyes lit up at the mention of Rusty. He reached out tentatively to pat the dog's head. "I'm Leo," he said softly. "I'm here visiting my grandmother. She used to live here before everything happened." Carla knelt beside him, her heart aching at the boy's timid demeanor. "Your grandmother must be very proud of you for visiting her," she said with a warm smile. "Rusty has a way of making everyone feel better. He's a great listener too." Leo hesitated before speaking. "I've been feeling really sad. My mom says I shouldn't talk about it, but my dad passed away last year. I just miss him so much." Carla's heart broke at the boy's confession. She nodded, her voice steady. "I think talking about it might help. Rusty and I are here to listen, anytime you need us." As the weeks passed, Leo began spending more time at Greenfield Manor, helping Carla and the other volunteers. His bond with Rusty grew stronger, and the dog's quiet presence seemed to give the boy a sense of calm. Inspired by Rusty's story, Leo began sharing his feelings with his grandmother and even joined a local support group for children coping with loss. Meanwhile, Greenfield Manor became a hub of community activity. The residents started hosting weekly events, from art workshops to storytelling evenings, where Edith and the other staff would share tales of the manor's history. Carla worked tirelessly to ensure the manor thrived, organizing fundraisers and reaching out to local schools and businesses for support. One day, Carla received a call from a journalist who had read about Rusty's journey. He wanted to produce a documentary about the dog and the manor, highlighting how one loyal retriever had inspired an entire community to come together. Carla hesitated at first, worried about exposing Rusty to too much attention, but ultimately decided it was an opportunity to share their story. The documentary became a heartfelt portrayal of resilience, loyalty, and hope. Viewers from across the country were moved by Rusty's tale, and donations poured in to support the manor. Volunteers arrived from far and wide, bringing new life to the aging building. As the manor flourished, Rusty's health began to decline. He was no longer the strong, capable dog he once was, but he remained the heart of the community. When the time came to say goodbye, the entire town gathered at the manor to honor him. A plaque was placed in the garden, inscribed with the words, "In loving memory of Rusty, the dog who brought us home." Carla, now the director of Greenfield Manor, stood beside the plaque, her eyes filled with tears. "Rusty may be gone, but his spirit lives on in all of us," she said to the crowd. "He taught us to never give up, to fight for what we love, and to find joy in the little things." Years later, Greenfield Manor became a model for community care, and Rusty's story continued to inspire people far beyond the town. Carla often visited the garden where Rusty's plaque stood, accompanied by Leo, now a teenager with a bright future ahead. Together, they'd sit in the sun, sharing stories about the dog who changed their lives forever. Stay tuned and subscribe for more stories inspired by Rusty's journey. Thank you for listening.